Hello, Exiles. It's gonna be one of those days. I just got done reading this, and I immediately had a bunch of things to talk about, a bunch of things I'm not happy about, a bunch of things I think most people aren't happy about. We've got our balanced manifesto for 3.19, and I mean, we just lost for combinators, and I don't see a lot of things being improved in our post-Arch Nemesis environment. Things are really just kind of getting harder again. I don't know that there's room for them to get harder, so I'm like, you might have to make your build based around the idea that everything's getting buffed in the first week, because there's no way the average player base is going to put up with what the fuck they've done. But let's go through it anyways. Spell Suppression got nerfed. Basically, getting it on a build that's not on the right side of the tree is probably going to be something very supplemental now. You're not going to get it all from your gear and just live that way and be happy. Body armors went up to 32 to 34% before, now they only go up to 20 to 22%. And it's honestly, it's even worse for the other stuff. I think if you got it on every piece of equipment, we can do the math real quick, right? Okay, yes, 74. And then I guess you could corrupt your boots and get it a little higher to 82. Not even possible to hit 100%. I'm sure if you're playing a build that is supposed to have easy access to spell suppression, this isn't going to hurt you too much, because I guess they did buff the passives a little bit. It's not great, to be honest, because maybe GGG fell asleep at the wheel on this one, but because of the way it worked, most of these builds kind of planned around, you know, not having these notes spent anymore. And now they're going to be there permanently at the top level. That's not great. That's a little bit to deal with. Yeah, so spell suppression, little bit RIP. Not gonna lie, actually a little bit. It's pretty bad that you can't like get off the tree now with it. You are stuck with those points spent. And I'm going to talk about why that's a problem later. Arctic Armor got a little bit of a buff. I shouldn't even say a little. This is pretty substantial. 21% less damage taken while stationary when it's at max level instead of 13%. That's pretty good. On the right build, this is very good. Charge Dash is like a unique example of a build that like really already loved Arctic Armor, and now it's, I mean, 21%? What's not to like? Flesh and Stone was not buffed. I don't know what this is. I guess they thought this was gonna make it okay. No, this is, I don't understand this. Don't put text in here saying that it's a problem and then put in a solution that really is not going to change anyone's opinion on it. More importantly, Defiance Banner was reined in. I'll tell you right now, there's no changes to Determination or Grace. At least there aren't any in the manifesto. So honestly, this isn't too bad. In fact, I almost find it more attractive now that it has this. The increase to the reduced critical strike chance for nearby enemies is like, that's good. Man, is that good. If you suffer crits, that's like, all right, yeah. You did lose a lot of stats, especially with a change that happened later. Stats, rather. You lost a lot of armor evasion, especially with changes that happened later. I don't think it's going to be, like, terribly deciding, which is, like, actually another reason why I don't like this, because they say, oh, it's too prevalent, but it's like, this is not going to stop people from doing that combo, and they didn't put anything better into the game. They changed Wind Dancer to be less risky by keeping it just as risky. When you get hit, you're going to take 20% more attack damage, and it's going to murder you. Yeah, terrible. Terrible. They need to lower this. Make it 10%. Even 10% makes me kind of not okay, but 10% I might try it. Arrow Dancing. This might actually be okay now. It's now, you know, ER is doubled, which is an entropy system. This isn't actually, like, incredibly amazing, but 25% less for melee attacks. Well, I mean, you can still get your evade high against melee in this situation. You really couldn't do it before because 25% flatless chance just didn't work. So this is actually a little bit interesting. Arrow Dancing might actually be taken now. That's kind of cool. Something for those builds that now have to spend for spell suppression all the time. Ward is being changed slightly. I don't do a lot with Ward personally myself. Like they say, it's a relatively niche defensive mechanic. I do know that Oroth's was required, and I kind of doubt these other changes are going to make it usable. It's kind of a big shrug for me on that one. This is a little more relevant to what I understand. Grasping Mail has been gutted. No, not really. Changed from 100% to 50%. Kind of sucks, especially for a modifier that was like strong specifically, like very specifically strong, because recombinators existed, and now they're gone. I actually think they should have left this as was, because like the biggest changes to stuff right now is going to be in the fact that like this mod is not going to show up on your standard armor evasion base. Like you can't get 100% increased global defenses item with spell suppression anymore, and that was like a very, very good item, but it's gone. I don't know, man. The top end went up a lot. Things are going to be more expensive, and to add insult to injury, if you liked your Gravicious Life as ES change, yeah, that's been removed, and it's been replaced with a physical damage taken as fire and lightning mod. I don't like this like a lot. I shouldn't say that. I don't like this for the builds that used to use it, because the builds that used to use it ran Divine Shield or Ghost Dancer, as far as I understand. I'm sure there's some other situations, but yeah, they were already investing in armor or evasion and had that kind of leveraged to boost. So you wanted like a very specific amount of ES, but you needed to have that specific amount, and this was perfect for it. This no longer does that at all. In fact, this kind of takes away from it on the armor front, because you kind of want it to be physical damage. So an armor-wearing character probably won't touch this, which is like weird to say out loud, because it's Gravicious and it's Templar themed. But not anymore. Now this is, you slap this on your Val Regalia and you go to town. And like, honestly, for a Val Regalia, this is very good. That'll be like, what, 10 to 12% on anything? Yeah, okay. Pretty good if you're like a pure ES build and you want that physical damage reduction of some sort. They changed blind a little bit. Honestly, blind has like fallen such by the wayside. I'm pretty sure this is going to do nothing. I actually haven't seen a build that does anything with blind. Increased blind effect. Does blind... Okay, that's not true. It does make it easier to hit them, actually. So yeah, blind does reduce the evasion of the enemy. So this kind of like a situation where it has like a little bit of offensive value, depending on how you can calculate that into making your accuracy work out. It's just very lackluster, and it feels like so much of the game is begging for more power to fight back. So we'll see if we get that later. For now, Mind Over Matter was changed. I'm not sure if it's a buff or a nerf, to be honest, because I know there's mods that affect this on your items, and they kind of talk like they've removed them specifically from body armor, and I thought you could get like 20% on body armor, so this is like a nerf then in that scenario. But it's, I mean, 40% baseline. It's one situation where less investment is necessary, so that's nice. They fixed fortification. No, I'm just kidding. They didn't. If your build hits with melee but doesn't actually do a lot of damage, it's still too frustrating to use for you. Supposedly, it's going to be easier to acquire now. I don't believe it. Not for a single fucking second. If you're playing a bleed or a poison build, you're probably still going to be really pissed off in top content. This is dumb. Stop. Change it. I actually, like, whoever is balancing fortification at GGG, like, should apply to Blizzard, because they went to the Blizzard school of fixing problems in video games. Oh boy, minion balance. Man, I could feel a double tap coming my way. Although minion balance doesn't seem too bad. I think overall everything's going to be fine. Specifically, they have this whole minion balance thing where some are buffed and some are nerfed, and Dominating Blow isn't even mentioned. And yeah, yay for not being mentioned again. I love that. I love not being mentioned. More importantly, helmets can now roll +1 to 2 level of all minion skill gems, like everywhere, instead of plus to the socketed. That's pretty fucking good. I don't know that that's going to be enough to offset everything else. For instance, it was actually very easy to get to 28 the way we set up, so now it goes to 30, and that's an improvement, and that's important because let's see, where is it here? No, this is the balance, which again, nothing specific to me. I saw that Raging Spirits get some damage, and I wasn't paying a terrible amount of attention to this. I just saw that, yeah, 38% more damage at gem level 20, previously 0. Congratulations, bee enthusiasts, and just people in general who like to hit stuff with Raging Spirits and not just explode them. Our Kali's Fang got a huge nerf. I think we all kind of saw that coming. I actually haven't played a lot with it, so I don't know if this is gonna, like, delete it from the game or not. It was very strong. It might be fine. Absolution. I don't remember if this was buffed or nerfed, actually. Let's reread it. It looks like it's a little bit better. The base critical strike chance is very nice. We shall see. Honestly, oh yeah, we gotta talk about that when we get to it. Summon Holy Relic was definitely buffed, though. This is fantastic. I love this. More life regen. Much higher effectiveness of added damage scaling. I don't know how that actually affects the damage of the Holy Relic, because they don't talk about it, and it, like, let's back up, actually. Let's back up for a moment. Let's go back to the past, Samurai Jack. Base minion life and damage has been lowered, with the idea that they're going to give us more ways to invest into them on our equipment. I feel strangely about this one, because, like, oh yeah, that's great. +2 all, which is, like, really good for me, who was playing a Guardian anyway. But if you were playing a Necromancer, this is probably going to feel pretty bad, actually. Saying that it can be higher now on a character with strong items, usually when they say this, it actually turns out not to be true. I'm going to be honest, it turns out to be, like, severely not true. Like, they remove so much base power that, like, you are climbing a mountain, and maybe, like, at the very top end, you're, like, 3% more powerful. Yeah. This is probably the big one that affects my build, and admittedly must affect everyone else. That bonus you gain from Endurance, Frenzy, and Power Charges is now only the same as the player one. So Frenzy Charges are no longer the, like, ginormous DPS increase. This is huge. This is, for a lot of builds, in, like, ideal circumstances, you just lost probably, I don't know, 30% of damage. Not even kidding. And it's not really talked about. But the +2 gems on the helms is, like, an offset for me a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be an offset for everyone else. It's tough. It's kind of spooky. Also, because, like, I can get that +2 on gems, but there was also ways to get plus gems elsewhere. I'm not even sure this is a benefit to the top end, like supposedly they're supposed to be. That said, Bleeding, Ignite, and Poison is supposed to be pretty good now. Maybe? These penalties were huge. So maybe doing something with them is, like, actually an idea. They're doing stuff with minion crits that is supposed to be a buff, but honestly, I have a feeling this is going to be a nerf for most people. It's already a nerf, because it's later in the manifesto, but they nerfed the shit out of Brittle. So using Brittle to buff your minion's base crit is now gone, like, in a huge way. And they're like, okay, Spirit Offering now does this, right? And there's some elemental and resistance changes to minions elsewhere to, like, allow you to get your Ellie Res that way if you were using it for that. And that's fine, but, like, you gotta be using an offering now to get more crit. But then they removed the crit minion offense mastery, which was, like, the same value as Spirit Offering. So, like, okay, now it's harder to get. Thanks, I guess. By thanks, I mean an expletive in your direction. And then they added modifiers to various minion base types that I don't use. I don't use a shield or a wand, so I don't get these. And any other build in the same position is the same way. Yeah. Kind of short-sighted, honestly. A natural strength was removed from the game and replaced with Unholy Might all the time. Technically, not a terrible nerf. Whichever minion you were running +3 as a Necromancer on, like in your helmet, is now 3 levels weaker. That's not great, right? That's pretty bad. It has Unholy Might. Yeah, it's 3 levels weaker, which means you probably took a survivability hit on a minion that was designed to be survivable, I'm gonna guess. But if your primary minion was on a 6-link and another piece of equipment, it's stronger now. Yeah, it's stronger now. It has Unholy Might, assuming you're scaling around that. If you're not scaling around Unholy Might, well, now you have to get a helmet, and it's the same. Congratulations. A lot of congratulations, but in a sarcastic way. Let's see, the Auric Champion, Auric Colossus, Corpse Life, quote, exploit has been booped. It's gone, probably still fine, unless they ruin it later, which, right here. Oh, yeah, scaling Corpse Life on the tree and in Ascendancies is gone, but many instances of Corpse Life scaling here have been buffed to compensate. This might be good, just in a way like where you have to invest less, but you're still getting some of it back, which gives you room to invest elsewhere. And in situations like that, things can really work out for you. I'm not sure this is going to be one of them, especially the Corpse Pack Necromancer Ascendancy node being changed like that. That was like a big part of what gave Necromancers an identity as a spellcaster outside of a minion build. It's not terribly damaging though. Like I didn't specific like I got huge benefit from this, but I didn't specifically build around it in a way where like that was incredibly necessary. And with Detonate Dead being buff baseline and Volatile Dead being buff baseline, like Kitava's Thirst builds are probably okay, and they didn't mention that in the manifesto, so that build might be fine. Fire Trap was apparently bugged, I guess, unintentionally buffed, burning over time damage on the ground, and it's being reined in. If you played Fire Trap, I'm sorry, this probably hurts. Also, Seismic Trap was reined in quite a bit. Trap cooldown and duration gone, not gone obviously, but it's harder to scale them as well. And Flamethrower and Lightning Spire Trap were buffed to compensate. Seismic Trap was not. So Seismic Trap took a hit. Seismic Trap needed a hit. Let's all be honest. If you watch the Gauntlet, you know Seismic Trap needed a hit. That's fine. Explosive Arrow lost some Ignite damage. And by some, I mean quite a bit, to be honest. It's now 60% more damage at max charges instead of 100. That sucks. I was kind of hoping they were going to nerf Explosive Arrow, but at the same time buff Ignite attack builds overall so that we could do some stuff, and I don't think there was any talk of Ignite elsewhere. So, failure of a change. Honestly, I wish they had left it as strong just so people still had an option. Now they don't even have an option, it feels like. But I don't know, maybe the hit portion will be good. You know, who knows? Okay, if you were playing a meme build involving cast 1 damage taken, you know, like a ward looper, ow, you got slapped. If you were playing a meme build involving cast on death, you also got slapped. I don't know that this is actually... I don't know how good those were, to be honest. If you can still kill them in one hit, it just takes more investment. I guess this is fine. But this was such a specific thing to do, to, like, set up. I almost feel kind of weird about this being addressed this way at all. It must have really been a problem, right? Although the crit chance on cast on death is a huge issue, now that I think about it. I feel like they should not have changed this at all. Like, come on, just let people have their fun. Although, you know, with people one-shotting the feared, yeah, I could see why maybe they'd need to rein it in a little bit. I guess make it not work for the top content, but yeah, I mean, I hope it still works for some stuff, because it's fun, right? Let people have their fun. It's a video game. Divine Blessing has been removed from the game. No, it has not been removed from the game, but it can no longer be supported by Life Tap. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate for people who were using that interaction. I thought it was a cool interaction, especially because like it was a little bit of friction in your gameplay that you had to like work around. You could Life Tap into a very precarious situation and get slapped real good for it. But yeah, a lot of builds lost an aura. Sniper's Mark, very powerful. They want it to be less powerful. You're not going to be able to sustain your life and mana flash charges on it anymore, which is, I don't know. I don't love that, to be honest. Hydrosphere was good in one situation. I don't know who found out how to make it good in this situation, but good job. It's gone now. It was removed from the game again. I don't know why they hate Hydrosphere so much. I also don't know why they took out Hydrosphere, making a bunch of skills only just barely viable with like 100% or more damage, and then didn't buff those skills. And we're still living through that. Okay. Oh, but the good news is that they buffed a bunch of skill gems, and by buffed, I mean these are still not going to be used. I'm not even going to look at them. I'm not going to reward them with the feedback of like someone looking at a change and be like, oh, maybe it's good now. No, it's not. These are not good. These are still shit. The problems... Actually, you know what? We'll talk about Spellslinger. I take that back. We'll talk about Spellslinger and Shock Nova. Spellslinger actually got a pretty decent boost. I don't know that this is going to make it playable, but this is a pretty sizable boost. You get way more added damage, which is like what it's... You know, the point of it is. It was 60% at level 1, up to 174%. Previously 100. Pretty good. Shock Nova, very interesting. The ring always shocks now, which I thought was pretty cool. You can do some stuff with that. The rest of these are bad. Don't even look at them. Ignore them, right? You know, cover them up. Don't let anyone see. If someone looks at some of these other changes and tries to do a build around them, they're gonna be sad. They're gonna waste a lot of time. Cracklance maybe has enough AoE to do something. I'll give it that. Decoy Totem's a little better if you like using that. Good for you. This is bad though. We needed something very extensive, right? We needed something huge for this. Oh my goodness, we needed a lot here. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. Trickster is getting reworked. They're not talking about it yet. Juggernaut was... I was gonna joke and say this is another one of those buffs masked as a nerf. But I think this is actually a buff overall because a lot of Juggernaut's points were kind of weak, and now you can get like 2 strong points in its place. 8% of armor applies to elemental damage from hits is awesome. This is like so awesome. I love it. I love it. You didn't really have physical damage issues, so the generic application wasn't that great, but this can be scaled to well over 5% reduced damage taken from spells. In most situations. Obviously, the way armor works is a little janky. 40% increased life regeneration rate is hilarious. I love this. No, this is great. This is a multiplier to your regeneration, so if you have 10% regen, it's not 14% regen. This is big. This is very good. You get the other sources going. You get recoup probably on a Juggernaut, and I imagine you can make a Juggernaut that like just fucks. It's gonna be good, man. I'm actually a little bit excited. There's some potential in here. Well, I got excited reading it. Overall, the changes don't have me very excited. I don't want anyone to get mistaken and be like, oh, we have reasons to be happy. No, you don't. Slams used by Toa's Chosen. Slams used by Toa's Chosen now deal 100% more damage, previously 50%. It's still not exertable or synergizes with Fist of War, so I don't know who's going to use this. I'm okay. I guess slam builds are going to use it, but it doesn't feel good to use because like you're going to use Fist of War. That's not going to change. This is just less punishing now if you're using Fist of War. If someone makes a slam build that doesn't use Fist of War for some reason, this will probably be kind of okay at that point, actually. But, like, this is just... I don't know. I don't understand why they don't just give it better synergy. Toa's Chosen is kind of weird as is, because it's almost like they're giving you a... So Toa's Chosen kind of reminds me of Guardian back in the day, when certain interactions with Herald of Purity and Dominating Blow could only be accessed through that Ascendancy. It's like, this is a little... too specific. Toa's Chosen should be on a unique item. Yeah, Toa's Chosen should be on a unique item. It's weird that it's here. I don't think this belongs in an Ascendancy. It really doesn't mesh, and they have these, like, weird limitations on it. It shouldn't have limitations on an Ascendancy. It's the base of your character. Make it work with everything. It's like, it's defining. This does not define. It's like this little perf that happens on the side. Pathfinder was... I don't know how I feel about this. Magic Utility Flasks supply do you have 20% increased effect? Sure. That's a great change to Master Alchemist. No longer getting 6% reduced elemental damage taken sucks, though. At 75% resistance, that's worth 1.5% like max res. At higher resistance, it's worth a lot more than that. So this sucks. I don't think this is worth more than this, considering you need to invest more points into this. And builds that took this but didn't take this and still worked on the Pathfinder tree just got nerfed. Like, why? What are you doing? Alright, well, here's a nerf that definitely needed to happen. Crystallized Omniscience. The problem with Crystallized Omniscience was that it kind of dominated the way a lot of skills were played. And they're reining that in, which I think is good. But I feel like what's not talked about here is that the traditional way of playing those skills, you know, without going CO and just getting tons and tons of stats, wasn't very good. And it's still not very good. And this is probably still better. So you just, like, nerfed a bunch of people and didn't improve anything. He's talking to me. That's Fungello interrupting my recording. What a bastard. Haha. Melding of the Flesh... penalized. This yeah, actually I kind of don't hate this because in my build personally I did a lot to invest into maximum resistance, and then I would see these people slap this on and it would be better. But I don't know that it's necessarily okay because it did have drawbacks. You did have to build around it. It was very good. This is a lot though. Like, honestly, like 2 to 3 would have been fine. 4 to 6 is a lot, dude, for like overcoming the downside. I don't know. It's one of those situations where, like, okay, is it balanced from a numbers perspective? Sure. But is it balanced from a fun perspective? Are you enjoying getting this working? I don't think I would be. I'd be looking for any other way to get away from Melding of the Flesh. It's like, I don't love that. All right, here we go. Brittle has been neutered. This was so good to slap into a build that didn't have cold effect. And now you have to have cold effect. And I hate when they make a change like that. They should have changed the way cold effect works with Brittle. Because a lot of minion builds are going to suffer from this. This is big. They said they were going to make crit easier to invest in, and then they took this out. So your crit is not better, it's worse. Unless you weren't using this, in which case it's probably about the same. It's not even better because they removed your mastery. If you're using wands and shields and you roll the new mods, maybe it's a little better. I'm not sure. This is not great though. This was a big deal. This is a big deal. Small reservation efficiency nerfs, because yeah, they hate us, I guess. It's this one is a little bit painful, because it is just a 15% that anyone could access, and now it's gone. So some builds might be severely negatively affected by this. I get the feeling it's a little more likely that some builds are going to have a smaller mana pool, and other builds that were like right on the edge are going to be very upset. And this is just going to upset people. More power lost on the tree. More power lost in our characters. The limited builds that worked are getting weaker. Oh, this Balance Manifesto is a train wreck. It's so bad. I don't know why. Like, we are due for buffs. I don't think they realize that. Like, we are due for improvements to our characters, not weakening. Chainbreaker might be better. Damage taken recouped his life. Who cares? Oh. But yeah, Crystallized Omniscience. It's really, really great that they nerfed this. But they really, really needed to buff the baseline of so much in the game. A lot of skills, even after the changes, a lot of skills in the game underperform versus the top meta skills by like a factor of 10. Maybe not quite a factor of 10, especially after some of them were nerfed, but like still a factor of 5. That is to say, the meta skills are going to be like 5 times better than your average who cares skill. And there's just like, there's nothing being done about it. The game is in such a hacked up state right now. It's like they have tried so hard to do these kind of clever buffs and nerfs that move places and create that interesting landscape for you to navigate. But like, we're in Blade's Edge Mountains right now. That is the landscape. You are either on this tiny pinnacle point way up high, or you're on the ground and there is no fucking way up, and it looks like, you know, you're in a giant mouth and there's teeth closing in on you. It's I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am. A lot of builds that were too weak are still too weak. A lot of builds that were strong enough are probably not strong enough anymore. And the builds that felt good probably don't feel as good anymore. And that's where we're at. Fuck, I hope the patch notes surprise us. Again, this is out early so you can give feedback, so get out there and give your feedback, right? Send in messages on the forums, just flood them. Be like, hey, this is ruining my build, this is making this worse, this is making it harder for me to get there, and like let them know how this affects you, because I guarantee every single person who watched this video feels like their build is going to be weaker, because I actually have a very, very hard time looking at any of this and being like, okay, this is good. I mean, there were obviously a few places. I can't deny that. There were probably a few places where you're happy, but overall, I don't see this being an improvement. Yikes, dude.